I've got Senator Daniel Lang from Whitehorse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say, first of all, thanks for coming, and it certainly is interesting to hear the viewpoint that you're bringing forward here into the public forum. It's not a viewpoint that we've heard much of in view of the political spin that's put on climate change over the last number of decades. And I'd like to ask Dr. McKitrick a question, if I could, because of your vast experience and involvement with the IPCC, I believe it's referred to. They think the concern that the world should have, and we as Canadians should have, is that there has been an intention to just bring forward one scientific political message to the world. And my understanding is there is really a lot of question whether it has merit or how much merit it does have. And I also know that in a lot of the science, what is seen as bona fide science publications, the information that's been provided through the United Nations in some cases has been accepted as gospel and not necessarily been peer-reviewed, but accepted as peer-reviewed. I want to ask you, what has to be done to change that so that there is a legitimate public debate based on valid information so that we as citizens of the world can understand what's taking place?
I would refer to the report that I submitted, which includes a list of recommendations for changes to the IPCC process. I think something like the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is necessary because you do need some way of bridging this enormous scientific field and presenting information in a usable format to policymakers. The danger is that when you create an organization like that, and then it takes upon itself the role of speaking on behalf of a very large scientific community, and you don't have a chance to sort of look and see what the process is that they're using, then that gives them a lot of power without proper accountability. So the reforms that I've proposed would really work to get the IPCC operating more in the way that people assume it does, but which is actually quite a long way from how it in fact operates. The difficulty is the IPCC is controlled by a plenary of 195 country delegates, and the vast majority of them, having reviewed the records from some of their recent meetings, most of those delegates don't appear even to read the briefing papers. They don't put in any comments. They don't participate in any active way. Most countries did not submit any review comments on the last assessment report. Of the comments that were received, half of them came from only two countries, the United States and Australia, which are also the countries that refused to ratify the Kyoto Protocol. That's a body that requires some oversight, and Canada has a voice in that plenary panel. Canada sends delegates to it. During the last reform process, Canada was one of the only countries that tried to toughen up the procedures of the IPCC. I don't think they got anywhere because there just wasn't the interest on the part of other countries. But where I would begin would be to find out who is Canada's focal point for the IPCC and to get a group of countries interested in beginning the process of reform. If you had a group of countries in the plenary who sat down and talked it through and realized, if we're going to have an IPCC, let's at least make it work properly, and then as a group take it to the plenary, I do think you could get some reforms in place. If that failed, then I would say that Canada and some other countries should just set up its own advisory process and leave the IPCC aside.
Thank you.
Senator Green?
Just a supplementary. you said, thank you. The 100 delegates from 100 different countries, I presume these are scientists appointed because of their expertise in climate science?
No, these are government bureaucrats. Some of them might have the scientific background, but these are bureaucratic delegates to a plenary panel. It's 195 member countries. The scientists who write the reports, that's a separate group, those are the working groups. Those are the lead authors that I mentioned. They're selected by the Bureau in Geneva. One of the most prominent criticisms in my report, but also from the Inter-Academy Council, was there are no procedures stated for selecting lead authors. Every few years, the IPCC just publishes a list. Nobody's quite sure how they come up with it. They just announce these are the lead authors for the next report. They have complete control over who they select. And as far as I know, the member countries like Canada, although Canada can make suggestions like any other country, we don't have any direct say over that decision. So the lead authors are in what are called the working groups. The plenary panel, which is supposed to be the group that has the oversight, those are not scientists.
Thank you.